Good morning. Today we're going to play with the hips. We're going to warm them up, get them going, and then we're going to take some deep stretches to really give them time to let go. So let's start with our breathing exercise. Again, this very simple one of inhaling, lengthening up through the top of the head. Exhaling, thinking of dropping your tail deeper into the floor. So feel that pelvis relax down. Continue with that deep breathing. We'll add some shoulder rolls. Some elbow circles. Bring your hands up to your shoulders. And then full arms. We'll windmill back. We're going to do both arms at the same time. And then we'll do one arm at a time. Let your torso twist if that's all right for you. And then let those hands come down to the mat behind you. We're going to warm up the hands a little bit, stretching the fingers, the palms of the hands and wrists. Bring it on up, that stretch up to the upper arms. And then up to the fronts of the shoulders. Make sure that when that heart is lifted, especially that the elbows are reaching towards each other. That'll increase the stretch for you. And then bring the knees up. The feet are going to go about as wide as your mat. And we'll drop the knees left to right. Go ahead and cross the legs. And I want you to put the ankle in front that feels a little bit more awkward to do so. So now you've got one that you always go to the other one. Stick the tail out behind you, lengthen the spine, and lower the navel towards your own lap. We're going to keep this long spine, keep it stretched out, navel towards the lap. Once you find that you're starting to really round into there, hang out here, right? We're going to hang out where it's long. If your knees are floating up in the air like mine are, you can stick your elbows on your knees to give a little bit more force downwards. This should feel like a stretch in the hips, not the knees. And then go ahead and let that go. Round your back as much as you want to. Let the forehead fall towards the floor. Bring your upper body over to one side so your heart is reaching towards one knee. And I want you to continue reaching with that front arm. And then the other side. Come back to the center. We'll make our way on up. We'll bring the knees up again, hands back behind us again, and this time we're going to press down through the arches of our feet. Tuck the tail under, lift the tail off the ground. Imagine squeezing the thighs towards each other, even if they're not touching each other. We've got that squeeze. We're going to lower and lift. Take it at your own pace. If your wrists do not appreciate this, you can do this from your elbows, either on the ground or putting your elbows on a bolster so that it's a little bit less awkward. You can get more range of motion with it. Alrighty, let's cross our ankles again. This time it'll be the more comfortable way, or the other side. And again, with this very straight spine, we'll tip forward into our own lap. If you'd like to add elbows into the knees, my elbows are actually going above the knees on the femur so that I make sure that I'm targeting the thigh, the hip instead of the knee. Long, long spine. Reach your torso up out of your hips. And then let yourself round forward. We'll take ourselves on over one knee, reaching with the arms. And the other side. Back to the center. And make your way on up. Let's take our hands behind us again. Again, we'll bring our knees up. This time we're going to stretch one leg out long. So I've got my left leg out in front of me, toes pulled back, and I'm going to press up into this kind of half tabletop, half reverse plank, and I'm pressing down through both feet. And lift and lower here. The next time I lift, I'm going to hang out there. Remember, you can do this from your elbows. I would definitely recommend, if you're doing it from your elbows, that you get something to do it on, blocks or bolster, maybe a couch. We're going to lift the leg. And set that back down with your hips. We're going to grab this leg, pull it in really close. Put the foot on the other side. Pull your elbows down and back, long spine. And to make a very active leg down here, I'm going to flex my toes again there as well. Unwind. We'll switch up our legs this time. I've got my right leg out long. Lift and lower the tail. This time we'll hang out up here. We'll lift and lower the leg. And let it all down. Take both legs out in front of you. Very long spine. Lower the belly button towards the knees. You'll know I'm not going very far, and that's because I'm focusing on this super straight spine back here. And then go ahead and release. Round the forehead towards the legs. And roll it back up. do something very silly. We're going to lean on one hip, keeping your torso as vertical as possible, and lift the other hip. So I'm going to lift this hip and push it back, set it down. Other side. Trying to keep my torso as vertical as possible. I'm going to walk my hips back one at a time. And reverse it, walk it forward. Keep that torso shift as minimal as possible. Alrighty, lay on back to your back. Bring up your knees. We're going to start with some little tail tips. Go ahead and tip the tail up and back down. Really just emphasizing this low back press into the floor to get your tail away from it. All right, now we're going to do the same exact thing, but with our feet off the ground. So I've got that same low back arch, and then I'm going to press my low back into the ground, get my tail off the floor, and then release. Now, it feels like a little bit of a crunch when I really try to lift that tail off the ground. Exhale through the hard part. It's better for your heart. All right, now let's bring our knees towards our chest. Give them a nice big hug, let it pull your tail off the ground. And feet back down on the floor. We're going to play with a full bridge now, so do that little tail tip, lift it up, and then keep on lifting one vertebrae at a time, coming off the ground until it's just our shoulder blades in the back of our head. Thighs are thinking of squeezing towards each other. Arches are pressed down into the floor. Hips are lifting towards the ceiling, and chest is trying to get cozy with your chin. Slowly roll down from top to bottom. Roll it up. And down. Now, one thing that I've noticed over the years is my knees get more and more arthritis in them. At some point, my knees get very uncomfortable. So if I lift my heels, I can do the rest of the roll down without such a big discomfort. Let's do that one more time. Roll it up. Pressing down through the arches, squeezing between the thighs. And roll it down. All right, let's take our right leg up towards the sky. We're going to get a really, really tight tummy here, pressing the low spine to the floor. I'm going to lower the leg almost to the floor and then lift it back up. So I've got a lot of tummy work happening here, but also a bit of hip flexor happening, pulling it up. Now, if this is too easy peasy for you, please make it a little bit more challenging by lifting the other leg. And switch sides. Keep breathing, even though that low belly is pressing down towards the spine. Spine is pressing down towards the floor. If your knee is up, it's over your hip to make it more challenging. The closer it is to your chest, the easier it'll be. Excellent. Bring both knees in towards the chest. Again, we're going to pull so hard that we lift our tail up off the ground. And set those feet down. Let's bring ourselves up into a bridge, round it up. And when we're at that highest point, we're going to walk our shoulders away from our ears. We're going to stick our hands under our hips. If your hands don't quite go there, a couple of stacked blocks might be nice. Or maybe you can do this next part without the hands under, quite like this. But we're going to bring one foot up and the other. And we're going to bring our knees towards our shoulders once again. Now, when I'm here, I'm not going to turn my head left or right. So if I want to come up to take a look at something, I got to come all the way up, because there is a little bit of weight on my spine, there at the neck. So I don't want to do anything funky. But go ahead and bring the knees towards the ears. Maybe you stretch out your legs for a plow pose. Toes are reaching towards the floor. Legs are stretching long. Deep hamstring stretch. And unwind it. We'll just roll down to the mat. Excellent. Go ahead and rock and roll. Bring it up to a squat. Press the hips up into the air, forward fold. Soften the knees, round or flat back up to standing tall. Hands to heart space. Inhale, arms up. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale, half lift. Exhale, back down. Right leg steps back behind you. There you go. Now give this time to settle. Really lengthen the back knee. Drop your hips down towards the floor. Very little weight, if anything, on the hands. They're mostly there for side-to-side balance. Lengthen the spine. Step it back to plank. And child's pose. Press your hips down towards your heels. Lengthen the low spine. Inhale, come up, downward facing dog.
Right leg up high to the sky behind you. We're going to keep our belly button facing the mat. Don't let it go out to the side. Keeping the right hip down, even though the right heel is going up. Bring the right knee forward, low lunge.
And again, we will take our time. Long back leg, drop the hips, long spine. Forward fold.
Breathe in, come all the way up. Hands to heart space. Next inhale, reach it up. Forward fold. Breathe in, half lift.
And back down.
Left leg steps back.
Take it to plank. Child's pose.
And downward facing dog. Press the hips back. Lift the left leg up behind you. Hip stays low, heel stays lifted. Bring it forward, low lunge.
Forward fold.
All the way up. Hands to heart space. Next inhale, take it up. Forward fold. Breathe in, half lift.
And back down.
Take a large step back with the right leg. Lift the left arm to the knee or the sky, but we're going to think about bringing the knee towards the armpit or heart, and this hip is going to reach down and away. You might notice that the arch of your foot here in front is trying to roll off the mat. Glue it down there. And then we're going to let that back foot come to the side of the foot. Notice my front leg had to adjust a little bit. I'm going to lower my hip down to the mat and enjoy this stretch here. Lift it all the way back up. You can go to regular plank and step low lunge and then step back to plank, or you can enjoy a side plank here and then meet in plank. This time when we go to child's pose, we're going to open those knees as much as we can. Really, really wide child's pose. We haven't played with straddles yet. This is our chance to stretch out those adductors. downward facing dog. Right leg high behind you. This time we're going to let our right hip come way up to the ceiling. Reach our leg back. Both arms long and strong. Rotate those hips as much as you can. Feel the deep stretch of the low waist. Bring it forward, low lunge. Forward fold. Breathe in, come all the way up. And hands to heart space. Inhale, arms up. Forward fold. Breathe in, half lift. And back down. Left leg steps back. Rotate your low lunge. Right arm goes up. Knee comes close to the torso. Right hip reaches back towards the back heel. Arch of the foot reaches down, supporting arm reaches down to make lots of space between your shoulder and your ear. Drop your back foot to the ground, adjust the front leg as needed. Lower your hips to the floor. Now, while this can be an incredible amount of stretch for this hip, if you rock a little bit on the low hip, you can get a really good stretch here through the TFL and the lower waistline as well. And bring it up. Make your way to plank, however you like. And wide knee, child's pose. Bring it up, downward facing dog. Make sure in your downward facing dog that you have a lot of pressure down through the knuckles of your fingers, taking a little pressure off the wrists. Left leg will come up and over for our scorpion dog over here. And bring it forward, low lunge. Forward fold. Breathe in, come all the way up. Hands to heart space. go ahead and let our arms come down. We're going to take one leg behind the other. And we're gonna play with that same concept that we did down on the ground when we were talking about rolling into stretching the outer hip. We won't have the compression of the floor this way, but we will have a little bit more freedom. Go ahead and find that spot that feels a little bit sticky to you. Once you find it, we'll just hang out there. If you'd like to add a little bit more to it, you can take an arm up and over. It'll increase the stretch. It'll also increase the necessity of that muscle to tighten. So you'll be fighting in two different directions there. The muscle will be lengthened, but contracting at the same time. And release. We'll play with the other side. And let it go. And relax those legs. Wiggle the hips. And if you'd like to, find something to help you balance, a wall, a chair, another piece of furniture. We're gonna play with adding some hip stretch to balance. So let's start with a simple tree pose. We'll turn the right knee out. Now our hips, we want them to be level. So what happens sometimes when we bring this hip back or the knee out, the hip drops. I'm gonna engage my core. I'm gonna press down through this leg so that the hips stay level. And then I'm also gonna do a little front to back check here to make sure that I feel my abdominals are engaged in such a way that I'm getting taller. All right, now let's go ahead and lift the leg as high as is right for you. Notice that as you lift the leg, this hip tends to fall backwards. I'm going to try to, again, keep it level. And then go ahead and set that foot on the other thigh. I'm gonna bend the knee that I'm standing on. It's gonna make a little ledge for the other leg to rest on. And like I said, you might want that little thing to help you balance. I'm gonna keep sinking my hips back until I get a stretch back here. I actually like to use my elbow to, again, press the knee open. And to help me with my balance, I'm gonna keep my eyes focused on some very small detail of the floor. And bring it all the way back up. We'll play with the second side. Turn the knee out. Hips are level. Hips are level this way. As the leg comes up, I'm going to try to keep the pelvis square so that my hips are directly under my armpits instead of one sneaking out behind. That might mean that my knee isn't really way out to the side anymore. It's a little bit at a diagonal. That's okay. cross that foot over the thigh. Bend the knee to give it a little ledge. We'll keep on sitting back into our imaginary chair till we get that hip stretch that we're looking for. Now I'm stopping at about chair height because that's where I feel a good stretch, but I could take it, and you might need to take it to get that stretch a little bit further when you can come all the way down. So whatever works for you. Remember, lengthening the low spine, navel towards the lap. That's going to get the stretch that we're looking for. And unwind. Wiggle it on out. And make your way to, we're going to go down to the floor. We're going to go down to hands and knees. I'm going to be sideways on my mat so that my knees stay on the mat. And I'm even going to double it up a little bit so my knees don't get hurt. We're going to take them out wide. I'm going to tuck my tail under. Wiggle my knees out as wide as I can get them with my tail tucked. And a little bit more. Now, I'm gonna try to squeeze my knees back together. It's not going to happen. But I'm gonna try to squeeze those knees towards each other. I'm gonna hold that squeeze for 10 full seconds, really steady, so with about 10% of my strength, squeezing my knees and holding it at 10%, no pulsing. And then after 10 seconds, we're gonna relax and see if we can wiggle them out just a little bit further. One more time, we're gonna squeeze for 10. Very steady squeeze. And release, see if you can wiggle a little bit further. All right, stick your tail out. Let your torso come forward. Get as close to the floor as you can. Your tail is still right where it was before, making that triangle with your knees. And then bring your feet towards each other and sink your hips back towards them. Once you're here, again, let the body fall forward towards the ground. Bring yourself on up. Make your way to sitting down on your tail. You know, let's go ahead and lay all the way down. We're going to pick up our hips, scooch them an inch or two to the right, drop our knees to the left. And right now what I'd like you to do is feel a stretch in the top hip. So go ahead and wiggle it around and find what's going to give you a stretch in the top hip. It could be anywhere from the heel reaching out long, away from your head, to knee towards the chest. Lots of different stretches to be had. And then we'll switch on over to the other side. So we'll pick up our hips and set them a couple inches over to the left. Drop your knees to the right and explore those hip stretches. And let it go. Take yourself to your Shavasana, your relaxation pose. Feel free to get any props to make you more comfortable. And allow yourself to rest. As we lie here breathing, begin to take your mind inwards. And imagine that you are at the foot of a great mountain. While you're walking along the foot of this mountain, you feel a breeze coming from the soil. And as you turn the corner, there's a great cave. This cave is large and lined with stone. It has the presence to suggest it's been there since the beginning of time. And you feel its breath coming out, breezing through your hair. Allow it to invite you in. Allow your fingertips to trail along the moist stone walls as you take one step after another into the darkness. The floor of the cave is smooth, and you can hear echoes of your footsteps. Continue further and further into the cave. Until the beginning of your walk is just a pinpoint of light far in the dark and the distance. Go until you begin to see a warm glow coming from within the cave. A flickering glow inviting you deeper. And it becomes brighter and brighter until you can see that it's a single candle. Feel its warmth as you go and sit down to admire the flame. Allow yourself to become completely entranced by the dance of this single flame. Feel it as it sparks a sense of playfulness and warmth that you may not have noticed in yourself for a while. And when you feel that that has completely filled and grown that space in you, stand up and begin to walk back to the entrance. Feel the warmth on your back as you make your way back to the opening of the cave. Through the darkness, and back out into the light. Return your awareness now to the room that you are in. Begin to move and stretch your body. Slowly make your way to sitting up. We'll bring our hands to heart space, and today let's actually go ahead and we'll turn our palms towards our heart. Notice that gentle beating, that soft warmth. Together we'll take a deep inhale and exhale, and I invite you to Om along with me during the exhale and feel that gentle reverberation in the palms of your hands as we Om. We'll breathe it in. Thank you. Namaste.